The update we're looking at today is pretty stunning. BRICS has just expanded, and with Vietnam coming on board, it now covers like over half of the global population.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we're talking about a bloc that now represents 55.61% of the world's people and about 43.93% of global GDP, right?
Yeah, that's huge. It's almost like a reset in the global power dynamics.
Absolutely. And this whole expansion, you got the 10 original members and now 10 partners. It marks a significant shift.
Right.
The way Vietnam has joined, it's not just a numbers game, it signifies a realignment, especially when you look at the historical context.
Sure, and it's interesting because Vietnam's decision sort of echoes its long-standing non-aligned foreign policy, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed. Um, you know, Vietnam has always played a strategic game. Its approach of not aligning strictly with the US or any major power is like its secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the layered history here. There's this whole chapter on BRICS expansion where previous moves set the stage for this very moment.
True, and it's fascinating how the dynamics have evolved. You've got these strategic alignments that are reminiscent of Cold War era maneuvers, but with a modern twist.
Exactly. It's almost like a new era. Think of it. Back then, factors like the non aligned movement were all about not picking sides. And now, with BRICS, it's like they've re energized that idea on a global economic scale.
Right.
And when you dive into the numbers, it's staggering. Over 40% of global GDP and more than half the population. That's not just rosy rhetoric, it's a statement.
Yeah, and I'd say it challenges the conventional Western dominance we've been used to. But don't you think it also raises questions about internal cohesion among these diverse members?
True, true, there is a risk of divergence, but the shared interests seem to be binding them. And it's interesting how the report points out the US effort, which fell short in dividing China and Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the narrative of the Second Cold War, where the US tried to pit these nations apart, but instead they found common ground, especially with the renewed emphasis on economic and diplomatic cooperation.
It's like the US strategy of strategic division just backfired. I mean, if you look at Vietnam's stance over the years, it's been a textbook case of balancing relations without getting enmeshed in superpower rivalries.
Precisely. And think about it. While the US was busy dealing with tariffs and all, China was quietly improving relations with Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it's like China saw a strategic opening, and Vietnam's foreign policy, often summed up in their four no's, perfectly aligns with that vision of non alignment with the Western hegemony.
Mm-hmm. And that's a smart move when you consider the complex history between China and Vietnam. They've had their ups and downs, but now it seems economics and geopolitics are overriding that past tension.
Yes, indeed, it's like a pragmatic realignment. You have nations choosing markets and alliances based on current dynamics, not just historical grievances.
Right.
And then there's the whole flip side, the attempt by the US to divide these nations. It's intriguing how the report suggests that the US failed to split the adherence between China and Vietnam in what's being called the Second Cold War.
Exactly. It almost reminds me of how some strategies are bold on paper, but, get undermined by reality.
Right, it's like the US tried playing the role of the divider, but the reality functioned very differently. Nations like Vietnam, with its strategic independence, just didn't buy into that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this interesting side note about economic indicators, like comparisons of incomes, life expectancy, and the concept of the socialist market economy in both Vietnam and China.
Yeah, I remember that discussion. It's fascinating because while many associate socialism with stagnation, both these nations are showing real economic vitality.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like they're crafting their own economic models that effectively balance state planning with market mechanisms.
Right.
And in that sense, the BRICS expansion isn't just geopolitical, it's also an economic signal. It's a statement that the future might be less about pure capitalism and more about hybrid state driven markets that are surprisingly robust.
That's a good point. But don't you think there's a risk of, internal friction given the differences in governance and economic models among BRICS members?
Absolutely, that's a valid critique. While there's unity in numbers, the diversity can create significant policy challenges. However, the shared interests in resisting a Western dominated order seem to outweigh these internal differences, at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have the ASEAN Way and regional summits like the ASEAN GCC China Summit. It's like a larger tapestry of cooperation that extends beyond BRICS.
Right, and that further underscores the trend. Globally, it's not about clinging to the old order, but forging new alliances and networks.
Exactly. And it's almost analogous to a modern day non aligned movement. Nations are aligning based on mutual developmental goals rather than ideological affinity alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's really compelling. But I do wonder, isn't there a risk that by uniting such diverse economies, the bloc might find itself hamstrung by conflicting priorities?
I was thinking the same thing. It's interesting because while the numbers are great, the challenge of governance and consensus building in such a heterogeneous group shouldn't be underestimated.
True, true. Though the report suggests that historically, when nations band together under a common cause, like countering a dominant power, they often manage to work through those differences.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to consider that it's like people in a team who have slightly different tactics but are united by a common objective. It might not be perfect, but it's effective.
Definitely. And speaking of common objectives, the idea of derailing, the US led global order or derailing the use of the US dollar is also a thread here. It's like the bloc is subtly signaling a shift towards multipolarity.
Right, it's a form of economic and political resistance. And with 20 countries now in the fold, it's hard to ignore the legitimacy of their collective stance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And this shift challenges not just economic paradigms, but also the narrative of Western capitalist oligarchy.
Right.
So, looking forward, this expansion might spark, further global realignments that could, quite frankly, redefine how international cooperation is structured. It's like we're entering a new chapter where instead of a binary world, we've got a mosaic of power centers.
Yeah. And while there might be bumps along the way in terms of internal cohesion and differing priorities, the overall momentum seems clear. It's an exciting, if turbulent time on the geopolitical stage.